How did I end up seeing my own daughter begging at a traffic light with her baby in her arms? Why was the car we bought her suddenly not hers? And why did her husband and mother-in-law kick her out? Can a calm man fix something like that without shouting, fighting, or breaking the law? My name is Nathan Cole. I'm 44 years old, and for the last 16 years I've worked as a senior maintenance engineer at an industrial facility outside the city. Before that, I spent 6 years in the Army doing logistics work, inventory management, supply chain coordination, the kind of work that teaches you to think in systems and check your facts twice. People who know me say I'm quiet. That's accurate. I don't waste words. I don't make promises I can't keep. And I don't forget things. I raised my daughter Emily mostly on my own. Her mother Mara and I divorced when Emily was 7. It wasn't ugly, just incompatible. Mara remarried a decent guy, moved 2 hours north, and we settled into a workable arrangement. She sent money for birthdays and Christmas, called every few weeks. But the daily work of raising Emily fell to me. I didn't mind. Emily and I figured it out. I taught her practical things: how to change a tire, how to read a contract before signing it, how to balance a checkbook, how to say no when someone pushes you. Basic survival skills. When Emily turned 20, she met Noah Rowe at some community college networking event. He was 24, good-looking in a generic way, and he talked constantly about entrepreneurship and building brands and disrupting markets. I didn't love him, but I didn't hate him either. He was just background noise to me. Emily seemed happy, and that was enough. They got married fast. 10 months after meeting, I wrote a check for $6,500 to cover my half of the wedding because that's what fathers do. The wedding was small, controlled mostly by Noah's mother Linda, a woman in her mid-50s who smiled too much and talked about family values and proper traditions. Noah's father wasn't in the picture, divorced years ago, living somewhere out west. Linda ran the show. Emily got pregnant 6 months after the wedding. When she told me, she seemed excited but also nervous in a way I couldn't quite name. I congratulated her, started buying baby supplies, set up a small savings account for emergencies. The baby came in June, a girl named Ava, 7 pounds, 3 ounces. I visited the hospital twice, brought diapers and formula, held the baby for maybe 15 minutes total. Linda was there constantly, rearranging furniture, directing nurses, acting like Emily was her project. A month before Ava was born, I bought Emily a car. A 4-year-old sedan, reliable, clean history, nothing flashy but dependable. I paid $11,000 in cash at a used dealership called Danner's Auto. I put the title in Emily's name, not the family's name, not Noah's name, Emily's. I handed her the keys and the paperwork at a diner and told her to keep the oil changed and the tires rotated. She hugged me and said thank you about 6 times. I told her it wasn't a gift, it was a tool. Transportation. Independence. The ability to move through the world on her own terms. That was 2 years ago. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. Since Ava was born, I'd seen less and less of Emily. Her calls got shorter, her texts turned vague, always the same response. "Everything's fine, Dad, just busy with the baby." I'd ask to visit. She'd say maybe next week. Next week turned into next month. I told myself it was normal. New parents are overwhelmed. Young families need space to find their rhythm. I didn't push, but there were small things I noticed. When I did see Emily, she seemed smaller somehow, quieter. She laughed at Noah's jokes too quickly, like she was performing. Noah had started making comments about me, casual insults wrapped in humor. Nathan's old school doesn't really get how modern families work. Or, Emily's dad is great with his hands, just not so much with understanding people. Linda would laugh. Emily would smile that tight smile people give when they're trying to keep peace. I let it slide. That was my first mistake. Then I saw Emily at a traffic light. It was a Tuesday in mid-October, about 3 in the afternoon. I was driving home from a job site where I'd spent 6 hours troubleshooting a cooling system. My windows were down, radio off. I like the quiet after a long shift. I stopped at a red light near the highway entrance, the kind of intersection with a wide median where people sometimes stand with signs asking for help. I wasn't paying attention at first. Then I saw movement in my peripheral vision. A woman standing at the edge of the median, holding something wrapped in a blanket. She wasn't aggressive, wasn't walking between cars, just standing there with a piece of cardboard propped against her leg. The blanket she was holding used to be white, but was now gray with dirt and city grime. Something about her posture caught my attention. Shoulders pulled inward too tight, head angled down but not relaxed. The specific way someone stands when they're trying to disappear while also needing to be seen. I looked closer at her face. Recognition hit like cold water. Emily, my daughter, holding my granddaughter, begging at a traffic light. The world went quiet in my head, not angry quiet, not panicked quiet, just the flat, mechanical silence I remembered from the army, from the moments when something goes catastrophically wrong and you have to think with perfect clarity instead of feeling anything at all. The light turned green. Cars behind me started honking. I didn't move. I put my truck in park right there in the lane, turned on my hazard lights, and got out. More honking. I didn't care. Emily's head snapped up when she heard my door open. Her face went completely white. Not surprised white, ashamed white. She started shaking her head, mouthing words I couldn't hear over the traffic noise. Her hands tightened on the baby. I walked straight to her, scanning automatically the way I'd been trained. Checked the baby first, breathing pattern steady, skin color normal, wrapped adequately for the temperature. Ava looked thin, but alert. No visible rash, no cough sounds. Emily smelled like someone who hadn't showered in 3 or 4 days. Her clothes were wrinkled, stained. Her hair was pulled back in a way that looked more like giving up than styling. "Where's your car?" I asked. My voice came out flat and calm. Her mouth opened. Nothing came out at first. She tried again. "They took it." "Who took it?" "Noah and Linda. They said," her voice cracked. "They said it wasn't really mine, that you gave it to the family, not to me specifically. They took the keys last Thursday." "Where are you staying?" "I'm not staying anywhere." "What does that mean?" "It means they locked me out. Noah said I needed to learn about respect and gratitude. Linda said I was being selfish and putting myself before the family. They locked the door and told me I could come back when I understood my place properly." The baby started crying. Not a sick cry, a hungry, tired, overwhelmed cry. I took Emily's arm, gentle pressure but absolute firmness. "Come on." "I can't. Noah said if I don't care what Noah said. Move." I walked her to my truck, put her and Ava in the passenger seat, went back for the cardboard sign and threw it in a trash can next to the median. Got back in the truck, drove away from the intersection while cars behind me finally started moving again, some of them honking, one guy yelling something I couldn't hear and didn't care about. Emily sat completely still, staring at the dashboard. The baby kept crying, a rhythmic, distressed sound that filled the cab. "When did she eat last?" I asked. "This morning, early. I had 1 bottle left." "That was 8 hours ago." "I know." I pulled into a drugstore parking lot, went inside, bought formula, diapers, wipes, 2 soft baby blankets, a pack of bottled water, paid cash, came back out. Emily was still staring at nothing, rocking Ava mechanically, but without any awareness in her eyes. I drove to a small diner I knew on the edge of town, 24-hour place, mostly empty in the afternoons, with corner booths that had high backs for privacy. I parked, took the formula inside, made a bottle in the bathroom sink, testing the temperature on my wrist the way I'd learned when Emily was a baby. Came back to the booth. Emily took the bottle without looking at me and started feeding Ava. Her hands were shaking so badly I thought she might drop it. I ordered coffee for myself and water for Emily. The waitress looked at us, at Emily's condition, at the baby, at my face, and didn't ask any questions. She just brought the drinks and left a couple extra napkins. I watched Emily's hands shake while Ava drank. Watched the way my daughter's shoulders stayed hunched even though she was sitting down. Watched the way she kept glancing at the door like someone might come through it and drag her back outside. "How long were you out there?" I asked quietly. 2 days. 2 nights. At that intersection? Different places. I tried to stay near the house at first. I thought maybe if Noah saw me, if he saw Ava outside, But Linda called the police, told them I was harassing the family, trespassing. What did the police do? Told me to leave the property or they'd arrest me. I asked about Ava, about getting my things, about the car. They said it was a domestic issue, and I needed to work it out with my husband. Then they watched me walk away. "You didn't call me?" She looked at me finally. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying, from exhaustion, from whatever had been happening inside that house for however long this had been building. "I couldn't call you. They took my phone too. Noah said I didn't need it if I wasn't going to be part of the family anymore. He said having a phone was a privilege, not a right." The cold in my chest that had started at the traffic light was spreading now, into my jaw, my fingers, the back of my skull. It was the same cold I'd felt in the army when I realized a shipment was sabotaged, when I understood someone had deliberately created a catastrophic problem and thought they'd get away with it. "What did you do?" I asked carefully. "To make them this angry?" She adjusted Ava on her shoulder, patting the baby's back to burp her. "I asked if I could visit my friend Tessa, just for coffee, one afternoon. Linda said no. I asked why not. She said because I needed to focus on my responsibilities at home. I said I just wanted 1 hour. Noah heard us talking and came in. He said I was being disrespectful to his mother, that I was questioning family decisions. I said I wasn't questioning anything. I just wanted to see my friend. He said I was putting my desires before Ava's needs, before the family's needs. I raised my voice. I said that was unfair. Linda said I was out of control. Noah grabbed my arm, hard, and said I needed to calm down or leave. I pulled away. He said fine, then leave. Linda stood at the door with her arms crossed and said if I didn't go right now, they'd call the police and tell them I was dangerous, that I was a threat to the baby. She said they had friends who would testify that I was unstable if it came to that. "And you left?" What else could I do? They were standing between me and Ava's room. They had my phone. They had the car keys. I had maybe $40 in my wallet. I thought if I left for a few hours, they'd calm down, that I could come back and apologize, and it would be okay. But when I came back that night, the locks were changed. There was a note taped to the door that said I could return when I learned to behave like a proper wife and mother. "Did you try to get back in?" I knocked. I called Noah's number from a payphone. No answer. I waited outside until almost midnight. A neighbor came out and said if I didn't leave, they'd call the police. So I left. "Where did you sleep?" The first night, a bus stop. The second night, a park. I tried to keep Ava warm. I fed her what I had left. I kept thinking Noah would change his mind, that he'd call, that someone would. She stopped, looked down at Ava, who had finally stopped crying and was falling asleep against her shoulder. No one came. I drank my coffee. It was bad diner coffee, burnt and bitter. I drank it anyway because I needed something to do with my hands while I processed what I was hearing. "Do you believe them?" I asked. "Do you think you're unstable?" "No." "Do you think you're a bad mother?" "No." "Then why didn't you call me sooner? You know where I live. You could have walked there." "Because they told me you'd make it worse, that you'd try to fight them and it would end up in court and I'd lose Ava forever. They said you're just a maintenance guy who doesn't understand how real families work, how real marriages work. They said if I involved you, it would prove I couldn't handle my own life." I set down my coffee cup, looked at my daughter. "Do you believe that?" No. Good. I pulled out my phone, opened a new note in my app, started typing. What are you doing? Emily asked. Making a list. Of what? Things I need to know? Facts, dates, names, evidence? I asked her questions methodically. When did she marry Noah? When did his behavior start changing? When did Linda start making rules about what Emily could and couldn't do? Who else lived in the house? Who paid for what? Where was the car now? What bank accounts did Emily have access to? What documents had she signed? What witnesses might have seen what was happening? Emily answered everything. Slowly at first, then faster, like she'd been waiting months to tell someone the truth, and the words were finally allowed to exist outside her head. When I was done, I had 4 pages of notes, dates on the left, actions in the middle, names on the right, a timeline, a pattern, a system of control disguised as family values. What are you going to do? Emily asked quietly. Handle it. How? The right way. What does that mean? It means you and Ava are going to be safe. It means Noah and Linda are going to learn something important about control and consequences. And it means I'm not going to do anything stupid, illegal, or violent. Dad, I don't want you to start a war over this. I'm not starting anything, I said. They started it when they put you on the street with a baby. I'm finishing it. Emily's face crumpled. She started crying, but quietly. The kind of crying you do when you've been holding everything in for so long that you've forgotten how to let it out properly. Tears just rolled down her face while she held Ava and stared at the table. I paid the check, took them to a budget motel 3 towns over, the kind of place that takes cash and doesn't ask questions. Paid for a week in advance, gave Emily $200 for food and supplies. Stay here, I said. Keep the door locked. Don't answer if you don't know who's knocking. Don't call anyone. Don't post anything online. I'll come back tomorrow with more supplies. I'll call you every day. If anything happens, if anyone finds you, you call 911 first and me second. Understood? What if Noah tracks me down? He won't. How do you know? Because Noah doesn't know how to look for things. He only knows how to take things that are already in front of him. I left her there with Ava, both of them finally in a room with a lock and a bed and running water. I drove home, sat in my kitchen in the dark until well past midnight, stared at my notes, then I started making phone calls. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't need to. Sleep is what you do when there's nothing more important happening, and I had work to do. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, a yellow legal pad, and a pen. I rewrote everything Emily had told me, organized into categories, chronological timeline on one page, financial control on another, social isolation on a third, statements and threats on a fourth. I worked the way I approach any complex system failure: input, process, output, failure points, leverage points, solutions. I started with the car because the car was concrete, physical, documented. I'd bought it at Danner's Auto 2 years ago. I pulled up the file I'd saved. I keep digital copies of every major transaction I make. The receipt showed $11,000, paid in cash, for a 2019 sedan with 48,000 miles. The title had been transferred directly to Emily's name. The registration was in her name. The insurance was in her name. Though I noticed Noah had added himself as a secondary driver about 6 months ago without asking me. I logged into the DMV website and verified the records. Title still showed Emily Cole Rowe as the legal owner. No transfer, no lien, no sale, just her name and the VIN. I saved screenshots of everything, printed copies. Then I moved to the timeline. Emily and Noah had married in March, 2.5 years ago. Small wedding, 60 guests. Linda had controlled most of the planning while Emily had seemed to shrink smaller and smaller during the whole process. I'd written a check for my half and stayed out of the details. That was mistake number 1. Emily got pregnant in September of the following year. The baby came in June. I'd visited the hospital, brought supplies, stayed about 20 minutes. Linda had been there the entire time. managing everything, treating the nurses like staff, rearranging the room to her specifications. I'd noticed Emily seemed tired beyond normal new mother tired, but I'd told myself it was hormones and adjustment. Mistake number 2. After Ava was born, Emily's contact with me had dropped off sharply. Phone calls went from twice a week to twice a month. Texts became shorter, vaguer. Everything's fine. Just busy. Talk soon. I'd ask to visit, and she'd say maybe next week, maybe next month. I'd assumed it was natural distance as she built her new family unit. Mistake number 3. But now, sitting at my kitchen table with a timeline in front of me, I could see the pattern clearly. It wasn't natural distance. It was engineered isolation. I opened my browser and started researching Noah's so-called business. His LinkedIn profile said he was the founder and CEO of Row Strategies, a consulting firm that helped businesses optimize growth potential through strategic market positioning. The website was all stock photos and buzzwords. No client testimonials, no case studies, no actual evidence of work being done. I ran the business registration, filed 18 months ago. No employees listed except Noah. No revenue reported to the state. It was a shell, a title without substance. Noah didn't have a job. He had a fantasy that he called a career, which meant someone was paying the bills. I made a note, find out who's funding their life. I looked up Linda next. She owned a 3-bedroom house in a planned community with strict HOA rules and a neighborhood Facebook group where people complained about lawn maintenance and parking violations. She'd been on the HOA board for 6 years. Her social media accounts were public. I scrolled through months of posts. The pattern was clear. Constant photos of Ava with captions like, "Our precious grandbaby," and "Blessed to have this angel in our lives." Posts about strong family values and proper parenting and the importance of structure and discipline. Photos of Noah and Ava. Photos of Linda and Ava. Photos of the house, the nursery, the family dinners. Not a single photo included Emily. My daughter had been erased from her own family's public narrative. I took screenshots of everything, saved them to a folder labeled with today's date. Then I went to my bedroom closet and pulled out a storage box I've kept since the divorce. Old records, tax returns, receipts, bank statements. I'm the kind of person who keeps everything, even after the legal requirement expires. Mara used to complain about it, said I was paranoid, but documentation has saved me more than once. I found the receipt from the car purchase, the bill of sale, the title transfer documents, made copies of everything. I found the canceled check from the wedding, $6,500, made a copy. I found receipts from the hospital, $1,200 in supplies I'd bought for Ava. Diapers, formula, bottles, a crib, a stroller, made copies. I wasn't building a legal case yet. I was building a foundation, a structure made of facts that couldn't be argued or reinterpreted or spun into a different story. Noah and Linda operated in a space where truth was flexible, where confidence and volume could overwrite reality. My job was to make sure reality had more weight than their story. I looked at my notes again. Emily had said they called her unstable, said she couldn't handle her responsibilities, said she was a bad mother who put herself first. That last part stuck with me. Unstable. That word wasn't accidental. They were building a narrative preemptively. If Emily ever tried to fight back, if she ever tried to reclaim her daughter or her life or her resources, they'd have a story ready. She abandoned her child. She was erratic. She couldn't be trusted. They were just protecting Ava from an unfit mother. I'd seen this pattern before, not just in families but in workplace disputes, in contract negotiations, in military logistics when someone tried to cover up a failure by blaming someone else first. You don't fight a prepared story with anger or volume. You fight it with documentation and witnesses and timestamps that can't be disputed. I opened a new page in my legal pad, wrote witnesses at the top. Who had been around Emily in the last year? Who had seen the progression? Her old friends. I knew she'd had a small group before the marriage. Her former co-workers from the retail job she'd quit when she got pregnant. Her mother, Mara. I hadn't talked to Mara in 4 or 5 months. We'd settled into a comfortable distance after the divorce, friendly enough, supportive when needed, but no longer intertwined in daily life. She'd remarried a decent man named Paul, moved to a smaller town up north, worked part-time at a library. She sent Emily money occasionally, but stayed out of the details of Emily's marriage. I called her anyway. It was past 1 in the morning, but I didn't care. She answered on the 5th ring, voice thick with sleep. "Nathan? What's wrong?" "Emily's in trouble." I heard rustling. Her voice came back sharper, more awake. "What kind of trouble?" "The serious kind." I told her everything. Not with emotion, just facts. Finding Emily at the traffic light, the baby, the 2 days on the street, Noah and Linda taking the car, the phone, locking her out. The pattern of control and isolation I could now see clearly in the timeline. Silence on the other end for a long moment. Then Mara's voice came back cold and hard in a way I remembered from before we got divorced, from the times when she was genuinely angry about something that mattered. "Are you serious right now?" "Completely serious." "Where is she?" "Somewhere safe. I'm not telling anyone where until I'm sure they can't get to her." "Nathan, have you called the police?" "Not yet." "Why the hell not?" "Because I need to know exactly what I'm dealing with first. I need documentation. I need to understand what legal protections exist. I need to make sure when I move, it's the right move that actually protects her instead of making things worse." "This isn't the army, Nathan. You can't just strategize your way through." "Yes, I can. And I will. Because going in angry and unprepared is how people lose. I'm not losing." She went quiet again. Then, "What do you need from me?" "I need you to be ready to testify if this goes to court. I need you to be clear, on record, that Emily is a good mother, that she's not unstable, that she's been isolated and controlled. No hedging, no trying to be diplomatic. Just the truth. She is a good mother. Then be ready to say that under oath if necessary." Okay, what else?" "Call Emily tomorrow, just to check in. Don't ask where she is, don't mention me. Just be normal. She needs to know she's not completely alone." "I can do that." "Good. Nathan? Yeah? Are you going to handle this legally, or are you going to do something stupid?" "I'm going to handle it the right way, which is legally, systematically, with documentation that can't be argued with." "You promise?" "I promise." She hung up. I added Mara to my witness list. Then I looked at the time. 3:15 in the morning. I made fresh coffee, sat back down, kept working. By the time the sun came up, I had a plan. Not a complete plan. There were still things I needed to verify, people I needed to talk to, documents I needed to obtain. But I had the framework, the structure, the sequence of steps that would move Emily from vulnerable to protected. Step 1. Create an official record. Go to the police station. File an information report. Not to press charges, not to start an investigation, just to document that Emily had been in distress, had been denied access to her property, had been threatened. Get it time-stamped and filed in the system. Step 2. Verify ownership documentation. Go to the dealership where I bought the car. Confirm the paper trail. Make sure there's no ambiguity about who legally owns that vehicle. Step 3. Understand the financial situation. Figure out what accounts Emily had access to, what Noah had control of, what could be frozen or recovered. Talk to the bank. Not to access anything. I didn't have that authority. But to understand the policies and options. Step 4. Get legal advice. Talk to a family law attorney. Not to file anything yet, but to understand what protections existed, what Emily's rights were, what Noah and Linda could or couldn't do legally. Step 5. Wait. Let them think they'd won. Let them get comfortable. Let them believe Emily was gone and I was harmless. Because the thing about people like Noah and Linda is, they underestimate quiet people. They think quiet means weak. They think someone who doesn't yell or threaten or make dramatic gestures is someone who doesn't have power. They were wrong. I finished my coffee and watched the sun come up through my kitchen window. Then I sent Emily a text. "You and Ava doing okay?" She replied 15 minutes later. "Yes, scared but okay. Ava slept through the night." "Good. Stay there. Keep the door locked. I'm handling things. I'll call tonight." "Okay. Thank you, Dad." I put my phone down, looked at my timeline again, at the pattern of control and erasure. Thought about Emily's face at that traffic light, the way she'd been holding Ava too tightly, the shame in her eyes when she recognized me. Thought about Noah and Linda thinking they'd won. I got up, showered, got dressed, called my supervisor and took a personal day. Then I started executing the plan. First stop was the police station. Small municipal building, tan brick, single-story American flag on a metal pole out front. I'd been there once before to get a traffic accident report. The place smelled like industrial floor cleaner and burnt coffee. I walked up to the front desk at 8:30 in the morning. A woman in uniform looked up from a computer screen. Her nameplate said, "Officer Rivas." "Can I help you?" she asked. "I need to file an information report," I said. Kept my voice even and professional. "What type of information?" My daughter was forced out of her residence with her infant child. She was denied access to her vehicle, which is titled in her name. She spent 2 days without shelter or adequate resources. I want it documented. Officer Rivas's expression shifted. Not dramatically, but I saw her posture change, saw her pull out a clipboard and a form. "Let's sit down and go through the details." She led me to a small interview room. White walls, table with 2 chairs, recording equipment in the corner, inactive. She sat across from me with a pen. "Start from the beginning," she said. I did. Methodically. Dates, times, locations, names. Emily's name, age, address. Noah's name, Linda's name. The address of the house they'd locked Emily out of. Description of the incident. Emily being told to leave. Locks changed. Car keys taken. Phone confiscated. The 2 days she'd spent without shelter. The location where I found her. Current status. Temporarily housed in a safe location. Officer Rivas wrote everything down. Asked clarifying questions. "Has there been any physical violence?" she asked. Noah grabbed Emily's arm hard enough to leave marks, according to her statement. "I haven't seen the marks myself yet." "Is your daughter in immediate danger right now?" "Not immediate, but there's a pattern of controlling behavior and escalating isolation." "Is the child safe?" "The child is with Emily. Both are currently in a secure location." "Is there a custody arrangement or ongoing divorce?" "No formal arrangement." "They're still legally married." "Does Emily have access to her daughter?" "Yes, she has the child with her." "Have there been any direct threats?" "They told her she couldn't return unless she learned respect and behaved like a proper wife. They threatened to claim she was unstable and a danger to the baby if she tried to fight back." Officer Rivas made more notes. Then she looked up at me. "Mr. Cole, I want to be clear about what this report does and doesn't do. This creates an official record of the incident. It establishes a timeline. If things escalate, if Emily decides to seek a protective order, or if custody becomes contested, this documentation will exist in the system. But this report by itself doesn't trigger an investigation or any immediate action." "I understand. That's exactly what I need. Documentation." "Okay." She printed out a form, handed me a copy. Case number stamped at the top, along with the date and her badge number. "If Emily wants to file for a protective order, or if you need additional police involvement, she should come in herself with identification. This report will be attached to her case file." "Understood. Thank you, officer." "Mr. Cole?" She hesitated. "I've seen situations like this before. Document everything. Dates, times, witnesses, messages, if there are any. The more documentation you have, the stronger the case if it goes to court. Already doing that. I left with the report in a folder. Second stop was the pediatric clinic where Emily had been taking Ava for checkups. Small family practice on the south side of town. I didn't go inside yet, just sat in my truck in the parking lot and called the main number. A receptionist answered. I explained who I was, that I was Emily's father, that there was a family situation developing, and I needed to know if there were any concerns on file about Ava's care. Sir, I can't release medical information without parental consent, the receptionist said, polite but firm. I'm not asking for detailed records. I'm asking if there are any red flags on file, any missed appointments, any signs of neglect or concerns about the child's welfare. I really can't. Let me be more specific. My daughter is in a situation where her husband and his mother may attempt to claim she's an unfit parent. If there are medical records that would contradict that claim, I need to know so I can advise her properly on what documentation to request. Silence for a moment. Then, hold please. 3 minutes later, a different voice came on the line. Older woman, calm and professional. Mr. Cole, this is Nurse Patricia. I've been one of Ava's primary nurses since birth. Thank you for taking my call. I can't give you detailed information, but I can tell you that Ava's file shows consistent, appropriate care. All scheduled appointments have been kept. All vaccinations are up to date. There are no notes of concern regarding neglect, abuse, or inadequate care. If Emily needs documentation for legal purposes, she can request a letter from the clinic summarizing Ava's care history. That's exactly what I needed to know. Thank you. Mr. Cole, is Emily okay? She seemed very stressed at the last appointment. More than normal new mother stress. She's safe now, but she's been in a difficult situation. If she needs anything, if she needs to bring Ava in for a check, if she needs resources, tell her we're here. We don't judge. We help. I'll tell her. I hung up and made notes. Ava's medical care was documented and clean. That eliminated one potential attack angle. Third stop was a bank branch, First National, the one Emily had mentioned. Large building downtown with marble floors and a customer service desk. I walked in, asked to speak to someone about joint account policies and access rights. A manager in his 40s met with me in a small glass-walled office. His nameplate said Mr. Gupta. I explained the situation in general terms without using names. Adult daughter, joint account with her husband, daughter had been locked out of digital access, needed to know what her rights were. If both parties are listed as account holders, both have equal legal rights to the funds, Mr. Gupta said. However, if one party changes the online credentials, the other party would need to come in person with valid identification to restore access. What if one party is physically preventing the other from reaching the bank? That's not a banking issue, that's a safety issue. We'd recommend documenting the situation with law enforcement and potentially seeking legal counsel. Can one party remove the other from the account without consent? Not without both parties present and signing, or without a court order specifying account division. Can one party drain the account? Technically, yes, since both have equal access to all funds. But if it's done maliciously during a separation, it can be addressed in divorce proceedings. I made notes. Asked a few more questions about policies and documentation. Mr. Gupta gave me his business card and said Emily could come in any time with her ID to regain access. Is your daughter safe? He asked as I was leaving. She is now. Good. Financial abuse is more common than people think. If she needs help, there are resources. I thanked him and left. Fourth stop was a family law attorney's office. I'd researched 3 firms the night before, called the one with the best reviews and clearest website, asked if they had time for a consultation. The receptionist said they had an opening at 2 p.m. I took it. The office was in a professional building downtown, clean, quiet, neutral colors, the kind of place that dealt with divorces and custody battles every day without drama. The attorney was a woman named Ms. Patel, late 30s, sharp gray suit, no wedding ring, direct eye contact. She shook my hand and gestured to a chair across from her desk. "Tell me what's going on," she said. I did. Same facts, same timeline. No emotion, no embellishment, just the situation as it existed. She took notes, asked clarifying questions, then sat back in her chair. "Your daughter is in a vulnerable position," she said, "but she also has legal rights that have been violated. The car is titled in her name. Taking the keys is theft of access, possibly theft of property depending on how it's framed. The joint account is more complex. Both parties have legal access, but denying her the ability to reach the bank or access the account could be considered financial abuse. The bigger legal issue is custody." "They haven't filed for custody," I said. "Not yet. But they could. And when they do, they'll claim Emily is unstable, that she abandoned the child, that she's not fit to parent. The fact that she was on the street with an infant, even for 2 days, even though it wasn't her choice, can be used against her. But she was on the street because they forced her out. I understand that. But family court isn't always about fairness or truth. It's about what can be proven and how stories are constructed. Right now, they have a narrative. We need to build a stronger counter-narrative with documentation." I pulled out my folder, showed her the police report, the car title, the purchase receipt, the screenshots of social media showing Emily being erased. She reviewed everything carefully. "This is good," she said. "This establishes that Emily didn't abandon her child voluntarily. The police report is especially valuable because it's time-stamped and official. If you want to be proactive, Emily should file for a temporary custody order and possibly a restraining order if she feels unsafe." Will that escalate the situation? It might, but it also protects her legally. Right now, Noah and his mother have control because Emily doesn't have legal protection. If she files first, she controls the narrative. What would that cost? Initial consultation and filing fees around $2,000. If it goes to full trial, significantly more. I'll pay it. I need Emily to come in herself. I can't represent her without her direct consent and involvement. I'll bring her this week. Ms. Patel handed me her card. "One more thing. If this has been a pattern of isolation and control, document everything. Dates, times, witnesses, messages, if any exist. The more contemporaneous documentation you have, the stronger her position will be." Already doing that. "Good. Bring Emily in. We'll get the paperwork ready." I left her office and sat in my truck for 10 minutes processing. The structure was taking shape. Police report filed, medical records verified as clean, financial options understood, legal strategy mapped. Now I needed to tie it all together. I called Emily. "How are you and Ava?" I asked. "We're okay. Ava's napping. I got her some clean clothes with the money you left." "Good. I need you to do something for me." "What?" "Write down everything you can remember. Every time Noah or Linda took something from you. Every time they told you you couldn't do something. Every time they said you were ungrateful, disrespectful, unstable, a bad mother. Dates if you remember them. Details. Exact words if possible." "Why?" "Because we're going to need it." "For what?" "For when this becomes official." "Dad, I don't want to fight them. I just want to be left alone with Ava." "I know, but being left alone requires having protection. Right now you don't have any. We're going to build it." She was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Okay. I'll come by tomorrow with more supplies. Keep the door locked." "I will." I hung up. Fifth stop was Danner's Auto, the dealership where I'd bought the car. Mid-sized lot on the edge of town, rows of used vehicles, small showroom. I pulled in and parked near the entrance. Inside, a young salesman approached immediately. Bright smile, eager posture. "Looking for something today, sir?" "No. I need to speak with a manager about a vehicle I purchased here 2 years ago." The smile faded slightly. "Is there a problem with the vehicle?" "No problem with the vehicle. I need to verify the sales records." He got the manager. Man in his 50s, thinning gray hair, tired eyes behind reading glasses. His nameplate said Mr. Danner, same name as the dealership. "How can I help you?" he asked. "I purchased a sedan here approximately 2 years ago, paid cash, title transferred to my daughter's name. I need to confirm your records show that transaction clearly." "Do you have the VIN?" I gave it to him from memory. I'd memorized it the night before. He typed into a computer behind the counter, scrolled, nodded. "Yes. Sale recorded November 2022. Vehicle sold to Nathan Cole. Title transferred directly to Emily Cole Rowe at time of sale. Clean transaction. $11,000 paid in full. No lien, no secondary owners listed." If someone else attempted to claim ownership of that vehicle, what documentation would you need to see? A new title showing transfer, or a bill of sale with both signatures, or a court order mandating transfer. Without one of those, the car belongs to whoever's name is on the title. And if someone takes possession of the vehicle without the owner's consent, that's theft. Vehicle owner should report it to police. Understood. Mr. Danner looked at me more carefully. "Is someone trying to take your daughter's car?" "Someone already took it." "Then she should call the police. That's theft of property." "She will, when the timing's right." He printed out a summary of the sale record without me asking, handed it across the counter. "Keep this. Might need it." "Thank you." I drove home as the sun was setting, sat at my kitchen table again, spread out all the documents, police report, medical documentation confirmation, bank policy information, attorney consultation notes, vehicle sale record. Everything was in order. Now the trap was set. I just had to wait for them to walk into it. The next 2 weeks moved slowly on the surface, but quickly underneath. I checked in with Emily every day, sometimes twice. She and Ava were safe at the motel. Emily had started writing everything down like I'd asked, a composition notebook full of dates, incidents, quotes. The documented erosion of her autonomy written in her own hand. I kept working my regular job, kept my routines normal. Didn't tell anyone at work what was happening. Went to the grocery store, paid my bills, maintained the appearance of an ordinary life. But I was also gathering. I set up Google alerts for Noah's name and Linda's name, checked their social media daily, saved screenshots of every post. The pattern continued. Constant photos of Ava, constant proclamations about family values, constant erasure of Emily. Noah posted motivational quotes about cutting toxic people out of your life and protecting your peace. Linda posted about the importance of strong boundaries and not letting others' dysfunction affect your family. They were building their narrative publicly, establishing their version of events for their social circle to see. I documented all of it. Then something shifted. An email notification appeared one evening while I was eating dinner. Group message, subject line. Family celebration dinner. You're invited. I opened it. The message was from Linda. Bright, aggressively cheerful tone. "Dear family and friends, we're hosting a special dinner to celebrate Ava's 8-month milestone and to bring our family together in love and gratitude. Please join us at Marcello's Restaurant, private dining room, Saturday, October 28th at 6 p.m. Let's show Ava what a strong, united family looks like. RSVP by October 25th. Can't wait to see everyone. Linda." The CC line showed about 20 recipients. Me, Mara, several names I didn't recognize, probably Noah's friends and Linda's social circle. A few people who might have been distant relatives. No mention of Emily anywhere in the message. I read it 3 times. Then I called Mara. She answered immediately. "Did you get that email?" "Yes." "Nathan? What the hell are they doing?" "They're staging a narrative event. They're going to have a public family celebration where Emily doesn't exist, where they're the loving caregivers, and she's been erased." "Are you going to go?" "Yes." "That's insane. It's obviously a trap." "It's not a trap. It's an opportunity." "For what?" "For them to say out loud in front of witnesses what they really believe, what they've really done, They think I'm going to make a scene, yell, cause drama, give them a story where I'm the unstable one interfering in their family. Aren't you going to make a scene? No. Then what are you going to do? I'm going to listen. I'm going to let them perform. I'm going to let them build their case in their own words. And then I'm going to respond. With what? With everything I've been gathering for the last 2 weeks. Mara was quiet for a long moment. Then, "This is risky, Nathan. If it goes wrong..." "It won't go wrong." "How do you know?" "Because I've been preparing for this since the moment I saw Emily at that traffic light. Because they underestimate quiet people. Because they think documentation doesn't matter when you have confidence and volume. They're wrong." Another silence. Then, "I'll be there. But Nathan, please don't do anything that makes this worse for Emily." "Everything I'm doing is to make things better for Emily." "Okay, I trust you. I think you're crazy, but I trust you." I hung up. Then I called Ms. Patel, the attorney. "I need you on standby for Saturday evening," I said. "Standby for what?" "There's a family dinner. I believe the situation is going to reach a conclusion that night. I'm going to need legal documents ready to file immediately afterward." "What kind of documents?" "Emergency custody protection, possibly a restraining order, possibly a civil complaint for theft and coercion." "Mr. Cole, I can't file anything without Emily's direct involvement and consent." "I know. She's coming to see you this week. We'll get everything prepared in advance, signed and ready. You'll just need to submit them when I call." "This sounds like you're planning some kind of confrontation." "I'm planning a response to their confrontation. There's a difference." She paused. "Bring Emily in. We'll get the paperwork ready. But Nathan, I need to be very clear. Anything you do at that dinner needs to be legal, calm, and documented. If you threaten anyone, if you become physical, if you do anything that can be used against Emily in court, you'll destroy everything we're building." "I'm not going to threaten anyone. I'm not going to touch anyone. I'm just going to tell the truth with evidence." "Okay. Bring Emily in tomorrow if possible." I hung up and immediately called Emily. "Tomorrow morning I'm picking you up," I said. "We're going to the attorney's office." "Why?" "To get legal protection in place before the situation escalates further." "Dad, I'm scared. What if this makes everything worse?" "Right now they have all the power. If we do nothing, that doesn't change. If we act, we take the power back." "But what if they try to take Ava?" "That's exactly why we need legal protection filed. So if they try anything, the court is already involved on your side." "I don't want to go to court. I don't want to fight." "I know. But sometimes the only way to have peace is to establish boundaries with force. Legal force, official force, the kind they can't ignore or talk their way around." She was quiet. I could hear Ava making small sounds in the background. "Okay," she said finally. "What time?" 9 a.m. Wear clean clothes. Bring Ava. Bring the notebook where you've been writing everything down." "Okay." The next morning I picked them up. Emily looked exhausted but cleaner, more put together. Ava was alert, looking around with curious eyes. I drove them to Ms. Patel's office. The meeting took 2 hours. Ms. Patel was patient, professional. She explained everything in clear language. What an emergency custody order meant, what a restraining order meant, what documentation would be needed, what the timeline would look like if this went to court. "If we file for emergency custody protection, the court will schedule a hearing within 72 hours, Ms. Patel explained. "You'll need to demonstrate that you're the primary caregiver, that the child is currently safe with you, and that the other parties have engaged in behavior that makes shared custody dangerous or inappropriate. The police report helps significantly. Your father's documentation helps. But the court will also want to hear directly from you about what happened." "What if they say I abandoned Ava?" Emily asked quietly. "You didn't abandon her. You were forced out and you took her with you. That's the opposite of abandonment. We have documentation showing you were denied access to your resources and your home. That's not abandonment. That's survival. What if they say I'm unstable? Are you unstable? No. Then we'll present evidence that you're not. Medical records showing you've provided consistent care for Ava. Witness statements from people who've observed your parenting. Documentation of the controlling behavior you were subjected to. Emily looked at me. What if this just makes them angrier? They're already angry, I said. The question is whether you have legal protection from that anger. Ms. Patel prepared a set of documents: emergency custody filing, restraining order application, civil complaint for theft of property and financial coercion. Everything drafted, everything ready, just needing final signatures and filing. Emily signed where indicated. Her hand shook, but her signature was clear. When do we file these? Emily asked. After Saturday, I said. Why Saturday? Because there's going to be a dinner. Noah and Linda are staging a family celebration where they're going to present themselves as Ava's primary caregivers. They've invited witnesses. They're going to say things. I want those things said in front of people before we file. I want their version on record before we present the truth. You're using them, Ms. Patel said. It wasn't a question. I'm letting them expose themselves, I corrected. There's a difference. Ms. Patel looked at Emily. Are you comfortable with this approach? Emily looked at me for a long moment, then back at Ms. Patel. Yes. We left the office with a folder of signed, ready-to-file documents. On the drive back to the motel, Emily was quiet. Dad? She said finally. Yeah? What's going to happen Saturday? They're going to perform. They're going to present their version of reality to their audience. They're going to explain why you don't exist in Ava's life anymore. And I'm going to let them finish. Then I'm going to respond. How? With facts they can't argue with. What if they don't care about facts? They will, when the facts have legal weight. She went quiet again. When we reached the motel, she turned to me before getting out. Thank you, she said. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. You're the only person who believed me. The only person who didn't tell me to just try harder or be more understanding or wait for it to get better. That's because I saw you at that traffic light, and I decided right then that no one was ever going to put you in that position again. She hugged me, quick and tight. Then took Ava and went inside. I drove home, spent the evening reviewing everything one more time. The timeline, the documents, the witnesses, the plan. Saturday was 3 days away. I sent a reply to Linda's email. I'll be there. Thank you for including me. Short, polite, no indication of what I was thinking. Linda replied within an hour. Wonderful! It will mean so much to Ava to have her grandfather there. I didn't respond. That night I did something I rarely do. I sat in my garage in the dark and prayed. Not for revenge, not for victory, just for clarity, for the right words at the right time, for the ability to stay calm when every instinct would be screaming to explode. When I was done, I sat in the silence for a while longer. Then I went inside and went to bed. 3 days. Saturday came. I woke up at 5 a.m. even though the dinner wasn't until 6 p.m. Couldn't sleep anymore. Too much energy, too much preparation reaching its conclusion. I spent the morning going through my documentation one more time, made sure everything was organized in the folder, made copies of the most important documents and left them in a sealed envelope on my kitchen table with Mara's name on it. Insurance in case something went wrong. At noon, Emily called. Dad, I don't think I can do this. You don't have to be there, I said. This part is mine. But what if they say things that aren't true and you need me to... Emily, I have documentation. I have witnesses. I have facts. I don't need you to defend yourself to them. Stay at the motel. Keep Ava safe. I'll call you when it's over. What are you going to do? I'm going to let them talk. Then I'm going to tell the truth, with evidence. Dad, please don't do anything that'll make me lose you too. You're not going to lose me. I promise. What if they call the police on you? They won't, because I'm not going to do anything illegal. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to threaten. I'm just going to present facts. What if the facts aren't enough? They will be. She was quiet for a long moment. I love you, Dad. I love you too. Stay safe. This will be over soon. I hung up. Spent the afternoon doing normal things to stay calm. Cleaned my truck, pressed a dress shirt and khakis, made sure my phone was fully charged, ate a sandwich even though I wasn't hungry because I knew I needed fuel. At 5 p.m., I got dressed, looked at myself in the bathroom mirror. A 44-year-old man in clean casual clothes, hair combed, face shaved. I looked calm, normal, unthreatening. That was the point. At 5:30, I put the folder of documents in my truck and drove to Marcello's restaurant. It was in the upscale part of town. Stone facade, valet parking, soft lighting visible through tall windows. The kind of place where entrees cost $40, and the atmosphere was more important than the food. I parked in the back lot myself, didn't use the valet, sat in my truck for 5 minutes with the engine off, breathing slowly, centering myself. Then I walked inside. The hostess was young, professionally pleasant. Good evening. Do you have a reservation? I'm here for the row party, private dining room. Of course. Right this way. She led me through the main dining area, white tablecloths, couples talking quietly, soft classical music, and down a hallway to a private room in the back. She opened the door. The room was warm, bright. A long table set with white linens, candles, wine glasses. Maybe 15 people already there, standing in small groups, talking. The energy was celebratory, social. Linda stood near the head of the table, wearing a dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. Big smile when she saw me, arms opening. Nathan, I'm so glad you could make it. I shook her hand, didn't accept the hug she was offering. Thank you for inviting me, I said. Neutral tone, polite. Of course. Family is everything. Please have a seat. She gestured to a chair near the far end of the table. Away from her. Away from Noah, who I could see talking to someone by the window. Strategic positioning, put the potential problem as far from the center as possible. I sat down. Looked around the room. Mara was there, sitting in the middle, looking uncomfortable. A few faces I didn't recognize. Probably Noah's friends from his business networking circles. Linda's sister, whose name I couldn't remember. Some older couple who might have been neighbors or church friends. Noah glanced at me once, did a quick assessment, then looked away. Dismissive, like I wasn't worth his attention. That was fine. I preferred being underestimated. Linda tapped her wine glass with a knife. The conversations died down. Everyone looked at her. Thank you all so much for coming tonight, she said, voice warm and practiced. This is such a special evening. We're here to celebrate Ava, our beautiful granddaughter, and to remind ourselves what family really means. People smiled, nodded. Some raised their glasses slightly. Linda continued. Family is about commitment. It's about respect. It's about putting the needs of the whole above the desires of the individual. It's not always easy. Sometimes people forget that. Sometimes people make choices that hurt the family. But we forgive. We move forward. We protect what matters most. She looked directly at me when she said that last part. I didn't react, just sat there with my hands folded on the table. Noah stood up, held his wine glass. I just want to say, he began, voice full of rehearsed sincerity, that my mother and I have worked incredibly hard to create a stable, loving home for Ava. It hasn't been easy. There have been challenges. Some people who didn't understand what we were trying to build. Some people who couldn't rise to the responsibility. But we stayed strong. We stayed focused. And now, Ava has everything she needs. A safe home, clear structure, A family that won't let her down. He sat down to light applause. I sipped my water. Linda spoke again. We know some people have questions. Some people might not understand why certain difficult decisions were made. But those decisions were made out of love, out of protection. Emily needed space to work on herself, to figure out her priorities. We gave her that space. We supported her, even when she couldn't support herself. And now, Ava is thriving. A woman at the table, one of Linda's friends, based on the seating, raised her glass. To Ava, and to families who stay strong. To Ava, the table echoed. I didn't raise my glass, Mara noticed, looked at me with worried eyes. I gave her the smallest nod. I'm okay. Stay calm. The food started arriving. Salads, bread, wine being poured. Conversation flowing around me in a warm social hum. People asking about Ava's milestones, complimenting Linda on her hosting, asking Noah about his business in vague, polite ways that he answered with equally vague buzzwords. I ate slowly, stayed quiet, listened. About halfway through the main course, Linda's sister asked the question that had been hanging in the air. So where is Emily tonight? I thought she'd want to be here for this. The table went quiet. Linda set down her fork, smiled, calm and practiced. Emily is taking some personal time to work on herself. We fully support her in that. But right now, what Ava needs most is stability and routine. And that's what Noah and I are providing. But where is she? The sister pressed. She's figuring some things out, Linda said smoothly. We're all praying for her journey. Noah added, sometimes people aren't ready for the responsibility of parenthood. It's not a judgment. It's just reality. We love Emily. But love also means protecting Ava from instability. I set down my fork. Everyone looked at me. Linda's smile tightened slightly. Nathan, do you have something you'd like to share? Not yet, I said. Quiet voice, calm. Not yet, Noah said. He laughed, but it was forced. What's that supposed to mean? It means I'm listening to your version of events. Our version? Linda's smile was completely gone now. Nathan, this isn't about versions. This is about reality. Emily made choices. We responded appropriately. That's the situation. Is it? I asked. Yes. I looked around the table, saw faces watching, some confused, some uncomfortable, some curious. Let me ask a question, I said. The car Emily was driving, who bought it? Linda blinked. That's not relevant to this conversation. I think it is. Who bought that car? Noah leaned forward, elbows on the table. You did. As a gift to the family. No, I said. I bought it for Emily. I put her name on the title. I gave her the keys. I made it her property, and you took it. We didn't take anything, Linda said, voice sharp now. We removed access to something she was using irresponsibly. How was she using it irresponsibly? She was using it to avoid her responsibilities at home. Her responsibility to not have friends, to not leave the house, to not exist unless you gave her permission. Noah stood up. You don't know what you're talking about. I know exactly what I'm talking about. I stood up too. Reached into my jacket. Pulled out the folder. The room went completely silent. I set the folder on the table in front of me. This, I said, pulling out the first document, is a police report, filed 2 weeks ago. It documents that Emily was forced out of her home with her infant daughter, that she was denied access to her vehicle, which is titled in her name, that she was denied access to her phone, that she spent 2 days without shelter. It's official. It's time-stamped. It's in the system. Linda's face went pale. I pulled out another document. This is the title to that car. Emily Colrow. Her name, not yours. Taking the keys was theft. We didn't steal, Noah started. You took property that didn't belong to you. That's theft. I laid down another paper. This is a statement from the bank confirming that Emily's name is on your joint account. Locking her out of it and preventing her from accessing a bank branch is financial abuse. She could have come to the branch, Linda tried. She couldn't, because you kicked her out, because you took her phone, because you told her if she tried to come back you'd call the police and tell them she was dangerous. I pulled out the last set of documents. And these are legal filings: emergency custody protection, restraining order, civil complaint for harassment, coercion, theft of property, and financial abuse. All prepared, all signed, ready to submit Monday morning. Complete silence in the room. Noah's face was red. You can't do that. I already did. This is insane. No. What's insane is thinking you could erase my daughter, put her on the street with a baby, and face zero consequences. Linda sat down heavily. Her hands were shaking. Noah looked around the table. Some people were staring at their plates. One person stood up quietly and left through the door. Another followed. You don't understand what really happened, Noah said, voice quieter now, less confident. I understand perfectly. You needed control. You couldn't have control if Emily had independence, so you took everything that gave her independence. The car, the phone, the bank access, the social connections. Then, when she dared to question you, you threw her out and told her it was her fault. We were trying to help her become a better mother. You don't help someone become a better parent by making them homeless. He didn't have an answer for that. I looked at Linda. The car keys, the phone. You're going to return them, tonight, before I leave this restaurant. We don't have to, she started. Yes, you do, because if you don't, these documents get filed first thing Monday morning, and you'll spend the next year in court explaining to a judge why you thought it was acceptable to put a mother and infant child on the street, why you took property that wasn't yours, why you isolated someone and called it help. You're bluffing, Noah said, but his voice had no conviction. Try me. Mara stood up, looked at Linda. Give her the keys. Give her the phone. This is over. Linda stared at her. You're taking his side? There are no sides. There's just right and wrong. This is wrong. One of Noah's friends stood up, left without saying anything. Another person followed. The table was emptying. Noah looked at his mother. Mom, we don't have to listen to this. Shut up, Linda said. She wasn't looking at him. She was looking at me. You think you've won something here. I think I've protected my daughter. That's all I came here to do. You've destroyed this family. No, you did that when you decided control was more important than compassion. She stood up, grabbed her purse, walked toward the door. Noah followed her. The rest of the guests filtered out, some quickly, some with apologetic glances at me that I didn't acknowledge. Mara stayed. When the room was empty except for the two of us, she walked over. Did you really prepare all those legal documents? She asked quietly. Yes. Are you really going to file them? If I have to. But I don't think I'll have to. Why not? Because they just lost their audience. Their story collapsed in front of witnesses. They can't rebuild that narrative. And they know if this goes to court, those witnesses will remember tonight. She exhaled slowly. I'm sorry I wasn't there for Emily sooner. You're here now. That matters. She nodded, squeezed my arm, then left. I stood alone in the private dining room. My phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't recognize. The car is in our driveway. Keys on the front seat. Take it, and don't contact us again. I walked out of the restaurant, drove to Linda's house. The car was there, parked in the driveway, keys inside, along with Emily's phone and the car title. I drove the car back to the motel, parked it right outside Emily's room. Knocked. She opened the door, saw the car, looked at me. Is it really over? She asked. It's over. She started crying, relief crying, the kind that comes when something terrible finally ends. I handed her the keys and the phone. It's yours, I said. It always was. She hugged me, long and tight. Ava woke up in the room behind her, made a small questioning sound. Emily pulled back, smiled through tears. Thank you, Dad. You don't need to thank me. Yes, I do. I nodded, turned to leave. Dad? She said. I looked back. What happens now? Now you get to decide. Where to live, what to do next, how to raise Ava, all of it. Your choice. What about Noah and Linda? They'll leave you alone, because they know what happens if they don't. She nodded. I drove home, sat in my kitchen, looked at my phone. No calls, no texts, just quiet. I thought about Noah's face when I laid out the documents, the moment he realized his story didn't matter anymore, that facts had more weight than confidence. I thought about Linda's hands shaking as her carefully constructed narrative collapsed. I thought about Emily's smile, real and unforced for the first time in months. I opened my laptop, pulled up the document files, saved everything to 3 different locations. Then I turned off the lights and went to bed. It was done. Monday morning, my phone rang at 7 a.m., unknown number. I answered anyway. Mr. Cole? A woman's voice, professional and calm. Yes. This is Ms. Patel. I wanted to confirm. Do you need me to file the documents we prepared? Not yet. Hold them for now. Did something happen at the dinner? The situation resolved itself. But keep the documents ready. I have a feeling we might need them if they decide to regroup. Understood. I'll keep the file active for 90 days. Call me if anything changes. I will. Thank you. I hung up and made coffee. Spent the morning doing normal things. Checking work emails, paying bills online, the mundane machinery of regular life continuing while everything underneath had fundamentally shifted. At 9 a.m., Emily called. Dad, Linda just sent me a text. What did it say? It says she wants to arrange a time to see Ava, that they miss her, that they want to work out a reasonable schedule. What do you want to do? I don't know. Part of me wants to just say no, but another part thinks maybe, if there are boundaries. Emily, stop. What do you actually want? Silence for a moment. Then, I want them to leave us alone for a while. I want time to figure out who I am without them controlling everything. I want Ava to be safe. Then that's what you tell them. They won't accept that. They don't have to accept it. You're not asking permission. You're stating a boundary. What if they fight? Then we file the documents, and the court decides. She was quiet. Then, okay, I'll tell them I need space. Good. That afternoon, I picked up Emily and Ava from the motel, drove them to look at apartments. We found a small 2-bedroom on the west side of town, clean, safe, near a park, affordable rent. The landlord was an older woman who looked at Emily and Ava and didn't ask many questions, just ran the credit check and approved her. Emily signed the lease with her own name, used her own banking access. She'd gone to the bank branch that morning and restored full access to her accounts. I helped her move in. Didn't bring much. She didn't have much. Some clothes I'd bought her, baby supplies, her notebook full of documentation, the composition book she'd been using as a journal. When everything was inside, she stood in the empty living room and looked around. It's small, she said. It's yours, I said. She smiled. That evening I drove home, made dinner, sat at my table. My phone buzzed. Text from Mara. I talked to Emily. She sounds different, stronger. Thank you for what you did. I typed back. She did it herself. I just made sure she had tools. You did more than that. I didn't respond to that. Just set my phone down. Thought about the last 3 weeks. The trajectory from that traffic light to this moment. Thought about how systems work. How control works, how documentation and timing and strategic patience could shift power without violence or drama. The phone rang again. Unknown number, different from this morning. I answered. Nathan Cole? A man's voice. Formal. Yes. This is Detective Martinez with the Municipal Police. I'm calling about an information report filed in October, case number 2023-1847, regarding Emily Cole Rowe. My attention sharpened. Yes, I filed that report. I'm aware. I'm calling because we've received a complaint from Noah Rowe and Linda Rowe claiming harassment and false allegations. They're stating that you filed a fraudulent police report and used it to threaten them at a public event. The report was accurate and factual. I'm sure it was, but I need to follow up on their complaint. Can you come to the station this week to provide a statement? Yes. When? How's Wednesday at 2 p.m.? I'll be there. Bring any documentation you have supporting the original report. I have extensive documentation. Good. See you Wednesday. He hung up. I sat there for a moment. Then I pulled out my folder, made copies of everything. Again. Put the originals in a safe deposit box at the bank the next morning, called Ms. Patel, updated her on the police follow-up. That's expected, she said. They're trying to reframe the narrative, paint themselves as victims, make your documentation look like harassment. Will it work? Not if your documentation is solid, which from what I've seen, it is. Should I bring you to the interview? Not necessary for an information-gathering interview, but don't say anything beyond confirming facts. Don't speculate, don't interpret, just stick to dates, times, documents, and what you personally observed. Understood. Wednesday came. I went to the police station at 2 p.m. Detective Martinez was in his 40s, tired eyes, cop mustache. We sat in the same interview room where I'd filed the original report. He had a file in front of him. My report, Noah and Linda's complaint. Walk me through what happened, he said. I did, methodically, finding Emily at the traffic light, her statement about being locked out, the 2 days without shelter, the car titled in her name, the phone, the pattern of control, then the dinner, their public statements, my response with documentation. He made notes, asked clarifying questions. Do you have the documents you mentioned? I pulled out my folder, handed him copies. He reviewed everything. Police report, car title, bank confirmation, attorney documentation. And you gave these to the Rowes at a restaurant? I presented them at a private family dinner that they hosted and invited me to. I informed them of legal options available to Emily. I didn't threaten anyone. I didn't touch anyone. I stated facts and potential consequences. They claim you threatened to destroy their reputation and falsely accuse them of crimes. I stated that I had documentation of their actions and that those actions could be legally addressed through appropriate channels. That's not a threat. That's a statement of reality. He looked at the documents again, then at me. Mr. Cole, between you and me, I've seen a lot of these situations. Control, isolation, financial abuse disguised as family help. Your documentation is more thorough than most. I keep records. I can see that. I'm going to close out this complaint as unfounded. Your original report stands as filed, but I need to give you some advice. All right. The Rowes are likely going to try other approaches. They might file for custody. They might try to paint Emily as unfit. They might hire a lawyer and come at you for defamation or harassment. You need to be ready for that. I am ready for that. Good. Keep documenting everything. Every text, every email, every interaction. Don't delete anything. If this goes to family court, you'll need it all. Already doing that. He stood up, shook my hand. Your daughter's lucky. Not many fathers would go this far. Most fathers don't see their daughters begging at traffic lights. He nodded. True. I left the station, called Emily from the parking lot. The police cleared it. Noah and Linda's complaint was dismissed. What does that mean? It means the original report stands. It means if they try to claim we're the problem, there's official documentation saying otherwise. They're going to keep fighting, aren't they? Maybe. But each time they fight, they lose more credibility. Each time we respond with documents and calm facts, we get stronger. I'm tired, Dad. I know. I just want to live my life. I just want to raise Ava without all this weight. You will. It takes time to rebuild after control, but you're doing it. Because of you. Because of you, I corrected. I just made sure you had tools. She was quiet. Then, I'm starting to look for a job, just part-time, something flexible. Good. And I called Tessa, my friend, the one Noah wouldn't let me see. We're getting coffee next week. That's really good, Emily. It feels weird, being able to make plans without asking permission. That's normal. That feeling will fade. I hope so. We hung up. I drove home, made dinner, sat in my living room with the news on in the background, not really watching it.